Okay, just a minute. So, Priska did an overview of what we usually specialize in as on Navari, and one of our main products is KRA integration with ERPNext through eTIMS. So, first of all, why eTIMS compliance? So currently in Kenya, it's a requirement by the law for all the businesses to comply with the regulations on invoicing. So that is electronic invoicing. So you are required by KRA to be sharing your transactions, most of the transactions, and mainly we'll cover the most common later on with the eTIMS. And the requirement is for your ERP, it has to be integrated with the KRA server so that you synchronize your transactions with KRA. So the way we've implemented it is through what we call a VSCU, or a virtual sales control unit. What this does is it shares information with the eTIMS servers. Not immediately, I'll try to explain a bit later, but eventually it synchronizes everything with eTIMS servers, that is. So the reason we have integrated this with the ERPNext is to try to simplify that process, to make sure that you're able to run your daily processes on your ERP without interfering much of the processes, while at the same time complying with the regulations. So this is an overview of how the solution has been implemented. So I'll try to explain. At the center, as you can see, we have what we call the instant, or your site where you have hosted your ERPNext site. So for you to be able to use this solution, you have to install the application. We have an open source application for this. You can see it on our GitHub or Frappe Marketplace. It's called Kenya Compliance via Slade. So once you install this app on your site, you can be able now to do some setups, and it will automatically share your information with eTIMS servers. So the way we've implemented it is through a third-party integrator. So essentially, you have your application, you have set up everything. It on the background, it sends the request of the transactions to KRA via 360 Slate. So we integrated with the servers, and then they do share this through a VSU. What VSU means is we have two types of solution provided by KRA. One is called OSCU, and the other one is VSU. The difference is for OSCU, you integrate directly with the eTIMS servers, but through the VSU, you somehow host the solution somewhere and then synchronize when the servers are up. So this tries to reduce the errors, because sometimes you might encounter some errors when etc maybe some time down etc. But if you have a VSU, it makes sure that all the transactions go through, and when the servers are online, it automatically synchronizes. So that's the advantage. So I'll try to go through the most common features that we have, but if I could highlight them. So the main one is invoicing, that is. So both the sales invoices and purchase invoices. We also do what we call inventory updates. So if you want to, you can synchronize with your inventory with eTIMS as well. We have whatever we call item and product registration. We'll see that as well. Customer information management, and then we'll also be able to access some insights through some dashboards and reports. So I'll try to open a demo on the main features that we have under the application. So once we install the application, you'll get such a dashboard. This is what we call now the eTIMS dashboard. If you're familiar with the ERPNext, you know what this workspace means. So this is the workspace for that. The first main thing is setup and configuration. We have once we install it, you have to do some configuration so that it can work with eTIMS. The other thing is KRA provides some codes, so we'll have another place to manage those codes. We do fetch that, we'll see. Then we are also able to manage item. Item also has a lot of importance on this, we'll see. And then we have some other things, some other operations. I won't go to each and every, but that's a sample. So as I said, one of the main things we do is item registration. This is what I'll cover first. So KRA requires that you share all the products or the items that you are going to transact with on all your invoices. So the first operation that we usually do, the first step, you will have to register all the items and we'll have to classify them. I did mention at some point that we do have some codes we'll see here. And you can see you have the ability to choose whichever items you want to send and whichever you don't want to. So you can prevent if you don't want to share a given item. So these classifications code, we'll see how we fetch them. It's a requirement by KRA that you classify all your items based on this. So you fetch them from the servers, and then you can be able to classify your items based on this. There is the taxation type. I'll cover that later, deeply what it means. But eventually, when you are doing a registration, item registration, you have to classify your item under a given tax code. So for now, once you do that, on the background, if you have done the setups correctly, it will share with KRA. As I said, there's another, I'll try to explain this process. We do map the tax codes with tax templates on ERPNext. What that means is we are trying as much as possible to reduce the reliance on affecting the normal processes. So if you have set up your taxes correctly on ERPNext, you can be able to classify, to attach those tax templates with the correct tax code. And when you're doing everything to pick automatically, so as I said, once you do an update, if you have configured correctly, it will automatically register with eTIMS, and then you can be able to transact with that item. The other thing I mentioned is the customer will have the same process. We have to share the customer information with the teams. And for the customer, we don't capture so much details. The important thing will be a tax ID. And this is not mandatory. You might want to share or not. So we have that option. You can either make it mandatory to share that or not based on your setup. So for our case, I'll try to register with the sample one with the tax ID. And as I said, we try to minimize the actions that you do. So most of the actions, most of the things will be automatic. Once you update the item, it will automatically send it to eTIMS. So you don't have to interfere so much with many things. So after that, we've done one thing. We have registered an item. We've registered a customer. We can now try to simulate one transaction. That's a sales. Will create a sales invoice with the customer that we have registered and the item that we have already registered. So what we expect at the end of this is we'll get back some response from eTIMS in terms of a QR code that you can share with the customer on the invoice. And once they scan, it's supposed to confirm that you've actually shared that information with the items. As I said, we don't interfere with the normal ERPNext processes. As you can see, you can even prevent sending an invoice. We don't want to interfere much. So once you submit, it will automatically do the whole operations on the background, and then you'll be able to get back you'll be able to get back your response or your QR code that you can share with your customer. So let's wait and see. So after you've submitted this, you get back such a response. As you can see, we've already gotten a QR code here, and this is what you'll share with your customer on the invoice, and they can scan to confirm. Yeah. So that's on sales. We also support other transactions that we won't go through much. There's the purchases, imports, there's also what we call what inventory or stock management, etc. BOMs. They are kind of several. So those are the main operations that we cover under here, under eTIMS. The next thing that I had mentioned, but we didn't go through it, is now the setup. So we've seen whatever you're capable to do through that, or what is supported. Now it's time we see how do we enable all that. So as I explained, you have to install this application on your site, and once you have you install it, you'll get this workspace I had shown you here called the eTIMS integration. And under it, we have a settings functionality whereby you have to configure a given setting to allow you to start transacting. So most of these things, I won't go to details about each functionality, but majority of them are auto-configured or very simple to go through. There's a whole documentation even if you need more assistance on that. So you're able to configure a lot of things. For instance, here, as you can see, we have some settings to enable the transactions that you want to automatically enable. For instance, sales, if you want to the sales invoices to be submitting automatically, you can set that. Same for purchases and also for stock as well. Other than enabling them, we have what we call now frequency. You can say, for instance, how much do I need to be submitting this? There are many there's a different combinations of settings here. For instance, you can say I want to be submitting this the invoices for the last 3 or 2 days. Like we backtrack. What I mean by this is we'll check for the last 3 days or 2 days based on the settings for everything, and say within these 3 4 days I want to submit any invoice that hasn't gone on or anything. And then we also have some things here, some setups for some defaults that we use in the transactions. Most of these are already there set by default, but if you want to change, you can as well update here. The other main thing is now the authentication. As I said, we have integrated through a third-party called Slate 360. So they have to provide you with those details so that you can be able now to communicate with the API. So that's the whole setup. And if I could explain, once you complete this setup, you have to do some initial operations, some configurations. I had mentioned this a bit earlier. You have to fetch some things. So there are some notices that you are supposed to fetch from KRA and some codes as well. So the first one we have seen is getting notices. The other one is getting codes. So if you remember, when we were registering the items, we had so many codes here that we had to fill. So all these codes, will get them using that button. So over time, automatically after you do the first initial setups, it will do that, and it will do that automatically after some time. But the initial time you have to automatically fetch this, and you can do that from the settings. So that's the first main thing. And then after you set your, you get your codes, you have to synchronize your structure, let me call it your organization structure, with what we expect on the other side, because we have already integrated via Slate. So most of these are kind of very straightforward. You don't have to, it's very simplified. So once you do that, you can also submit your mode of payments. These are like one-time operations, so you don't have to pay doing this over time. So once you do once, it's over. And once you have configured everything, then now your application will be ready to operate well with the eTIMS. So now we've covered majority of the things, how you set up that, and also all the operations that will be allowed to do. So what are the benefits of this integration? So as we've seen, it tries to automate and submit all the transactions to KRA with minimal interference on the normal operations of the system. So also it also allows that you are compliant with KRA, the regulations that we have. It also provides some comprehensive reports and dashboards, as we'll see, and tries to make it as seamless as possible. So I'll try to go through some features that we haven't covered, but this mostly will cover on the reporting bit and the dashboard etc. on insights. So one of the main things that we have under this is we'll be able to access so many reports, very detailed on the whole process. So on the workspace, you'll have access to all those reports. So these are sample reports. For instance, you can be able to, if you want to monitor we call them requests. We do track all the requests through integration requests. So you can be able to track that. Also some documents submission, if you want to see, for instance, invoices, how are they being sent to eTIMS, items, credit notes, purchases, stock, etc. All that. you can be able to see that either through the numbers or even the time they are taking to be submitted. So we will have that detailed reports on everything, both the time analysis. The importance of this is sometimes we find that there might be a transaction or a process that is taking a bit longer than expected. You might want to follow up and know what might be the issue. We also have some what we call error reports. You can be able to see the common maybe errors you are getting, because at sometimes we do get, it's not that common, but you might get a few failed in, requests here and there, and that report will help you to be able to identify what's causing those errors, etc. So we also have a very detailed dashboard that gives you insights on what's going on. So you'll have some cards representing most of the operations. You can be able, for instance, to track the requests, the invoices, the items, etc., and you see how many are pending, haven't been submitted, how many have failed, etc. You'll also have some charts here that try to give you also a summary of them. Most of this will be fetched from the reports we had. So a summary of those insights that you may require. For instance, the time, the request, the documents, all that. And this will help you to make more decisions, know the actions that you're supposed to do. For instance, if you get some errors, you need to follow up and know what's causing this and that. Yeah, and that's it on those, on the reports and insights from the application. So thank you guys. That's the whole that's the whole that's the whole insight around the application. So if you want to acquire this, you can visit our GitHub. We have it's called, the application is called Kenya Compliance via Slade, and also you can get it on the marketplace as well. In case you need any support, you can reach out to us as well. So now this time I'll make it open for anybody with any question. Yes, Stanley.
Yes, hello.
Hi.
How are you? I hope I'm audible. So, one question I had was, or that I have is that when you're registering these items, do you have like a template from the KRA side, or you have to register it like based on your master data? How does that work?
So thank you for your question. When you're registering, as I had mentioned earlier, uh, we have what we call let me go back to my slides. We have what we call some classifications code. The initial setup, after initial setup, we do an operation where you will fetch those codes from KRA. So there are two ways you can do that. After getting those codes, you have to classify each and every item. So if you already have an existing master, you can always go download the master elsewhere, do the classification separate, and then re-upload and submit. Or you can just go through the normal process of updating each and individual one. Yeah,
Okay.
but you have to classify, but you get it from KRA.
Okay. So, you ideally you're working with your item master data, then you're adding the item codes generated from the KRA side. If I've gotten that correctly.
Yes, you have your item data, you have to classify. You'll just be adding some codes that you get from KRA.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll share the link on the chat after this before the nini ends. Okay. So anyone else with a question? Yes, that's the GitHub link that has been shared now on the chat. That's what you're supposed to use. Okay, if there are no more questions, I'll hand over to Emmanuel, who will guide us through the M-Pesa integration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, David. Good morning, everyone. So I'm Emmanuel Mwendo from Navari 2, and we'll go through M-Pesa integration. So what we've done at Navari is we've developed an application that seamlessly integrates mobile money payments with ERPNext. And why should you integrate M-Pesa with your system? This is the major question you usually have. If you are in Kenya or you've been around Kenya for the past few years, you've seen the global shift of transactions happening from people carrying cash to transacting with mobile phones. We have Lipa na M-Pesa, pay bills, and till numbers everywhere. And it's been a struggle for many businesses to log these entries. So the reason you should integrate is because our integration allows you to log all your M-Pesa entries, that is all payments made to your pay bill or till. It allows you to also initiate payment requests if you want to prompt the user to pay for a specific service, invoice. So it allows you to also handle C2B transactions. These are payments made offline by the user. So they'll come into your system and you'll be able to reconcile. You can verify transaction status in case of disputes or you've not seen the payment in your system. And it also enables you to reconcile payments and invoices easily. And finally, we have the B2C integration. This allows you not to send money from your pay bill or a till number to a customer's account or your vendor's account. So shortly, we'll go through the C2B integration and the SDK push, that is M-Pesa Express, and slide setup, I might say. So here we have the M-Pesa workspace, I might say, or the M-Pesa dashboard. So to quickly go through this, we have the shortcuts. So we have M-Pesa settings. This will be our main integration document, I might say. This is where we'll store all our credentials from Daraja and M-Pesa. It will enable us to use M-Pesa in our system. We have the M-Pesa payment reconciliation. This is a reconciliation tool. Helps you reconcile M-Pesa payments and invoices. We have the M-Pesa C2B under the payment section down here. So this M-Pesa C2B register stores all your C2B transactions. So all offline payments made by users will come to this document. The M-Pesa Express request stores all your prompts that you've initiated to the user. And we have the M-Pesa C2B register URL. This is on the configuration side of things. So in order to receive C2B callbacks or offline payments made by customers, you have to inform Daraja or inform Safaricom that you want to receive payments on this site, so on your specific ERPNext instance, I might say. So you'll have to register your URLs, that is the callback ones, and then all payments made will come to your system. Then we have the disbursement side, which is the B2C. So the B2C payment disbursement and the disbursement request will hold all the requests. And finally, some sample reports at the bottom. So the SDK push, they are more or less just to give you an overview of what is happening. So here we have the M-Pesa settings document. This is a sample one we are using at Navari. So we have the API type, the pay bill type. So pay bill type can either be the pay bill or buy goods, depending on the account you have. We have some automation settings. That is the auto create sales invoice, auto reconcile C2B payments, and submit B2C accounting entries. We'll see this in a bit. And then below that, we have the credentials we get from Daraja or from Safaricom. That is the consumer key, the consumer secret, business shortcode, and online passkey. So these are what identify your specific pay bill or application to Daraja when making requests. And finally, below that, we also have the second layer of security, which is the initiator name and password. And these allow you to do B2C functionalities on your account together with the security credential. So under that, we have the balance details. We have an API to get account balance. So you can see all your details here. And below this is just the token information. This is more or less the technical side bit of things. So now you're going to go into a simple demo of C2B, how offline payments happen. So we have this specific invoice, an unpaid invoice. The invoice number is at the top, and on the payment register list, currently it's blurred out. Those are all previous transactions. So we are going to make a payment against this invoice. So on your toolkit on the right side of the screen, just go to your toolkit, pay bill, enter the business number. So for now it's ours. Then on the account number, so this brings into account the automation thing I was talking about earlier. So auto reconcile C2B payments. If on the account number, the customer enters the invoice number, once the payment has gone through, we'll automatically reconcile it against this specific invoice because we know this payment belongs to this invoice because of the account number. So I'll just finalize the payment. Then when I come back to my C2B payment register, I refresh, you'll see there's this payment that has been recorded right now. So I'll just open it, and you can see on the bill ref number, we have the specific invoice number. So if I refresh the invoice, we'll see it has been paid. And if I go to the connection section, a payment entry has been created against that specific invoice. So this happens automatically in the background if the account number matches a specific invoice in your system. So there'll be no need for you to manually reconcile later. So that is it for the, if the invoice matches, the account number matches the invoice. Next, I'll show another automation for reconciliation, but this one now uses the customer name, I might say. So for this unpaid invoice, we have a customer name up here. This is a test customer. And then same as before, I'll just go to my SIM toolkit, pay. Then in the account number section, instead of the invoice number, that is, I'll just put my customer name. So that will be the test customer. So this also helps us identify that this specific payment belongs to this customer in the system. So it helps us auto reconcile. So that also happens in the background, similar to the one before. So I'll finalize the payment. Okay, once the payment is through, I'll just reload this invoice, and then the status will change from unpaid to paid. And if I go back to my the connection section, a payment entry will be created. We've seen this before. So the payment entry and the attached invoice at the bottom. And then on the check reference number, it will reference the C2B payment made. So this is the payment that we made currently. So the bill ref number is the customer, or the account number is the customer name. So that is it for C2B. Currently, we only have it on invoices, soon coming to POS. Next, we'll go through the SDK push or M-Pesa Express, where you prompt a user and they just have to authenticate the payment. So back to M-Pesa settings, we have we've seen the auto reconcile C2B payments. Now we are going to see the auto create sales invoice. So for SDK push, we have it on sales invoices, sales orders, and on the POS too. So you can use it on the POS. So currently I'll show a demo with a, what is it called? A sales order. So this will be a short demo with a sales order. So I'll just submit a sales order. So the status is to deliver and bill. So it hasn't been billed just yet. For this, you'll have to create a payment request. And then on the payment gateway section, down at the bottom, you'll insert your payment gateway account. This will be linked to your M-Pesa settings, the one we had earlier, and a mode of payment. Then the phone number of the customer or user you are prompting, and then save and submit this payment request. Okay, so once that has been submitted, on the right side of my screen, I'll receive the prompt, enter my PIN, and then finalize the transaction. Once the transaction is done, if I come back and refresh the payment request, the status will change to paid. And if I go back to the sales order that we were paying to earlier, you'll see that the status will change from to deliver and bill to now to deliver. On the connections, we'll have a sales invoice. So this will be automatically created by the system. So this is the attached sales invoice, and it has already been paid. So we've already pulled the advance payment of this invoice, the one we made against the sales order earlier. The connections, similar to before, we have a payment entry created and reconciled against the specific invoice. Okay, now for the people using buy goods. So for buy goods, you won't have an account number, so we can't automatically reconcile. So here we use a tool called M-Pesa payment reconciliation. So here I just have an unpaid invoice. So I've just created an unpaid invoice for the demo. Then shortly, I'm going to make another payment. So this payment, I won't attach any account number. So similar to before, I'll make a payment on the right side of the screen. And then we'll receive the payment in our system, and it will be in draft status. Since it has not been attached to any invoice, it has not been reconciled. So for the people using buy goods, this tool will be very helpful. So on the workspace, you'll go to the M-Pesa payment reconciliation. You'll insert the customer you want to reconcile against, and then there are some filters here. So if you want specific invoice dates or an invoice name, you already know it, or the full name of the customer. So for now, I'll use my name, and then I'll get all the unreconciled entries. So this is the payment I've made that is in draft, and the other invoice we had created earlier that is unpaid. So I'll just click the two, and then I'll allocate. And once it has been allocated, we'll receive a message saying successfully reconciled, and there are no more outstanding invoices for this specific customer. So if I try to get more entries, I'll just receive the same message, no entries found. So for those people using buy goods, which does not have the account number, you can use this tool. So you see the invoice has been paid, and similar situation to before. Under connections, we have a payment entry against it. Then automatically it has been reconciled. So that is it for the demo for C2B and STK push. Next, we are going to see what is this called? B2C. So for the M-Pesa disbursement, this is whereby you take money out of your account and into a customer's account or a vendor's account. So same setup as before. We'll have the M-Pesa settings. Then below here, you can see we have the submit the accounting entries, the consumer key, secret, credentials. All these are mandatory for B2C disbursement. They are what helps Safaricom identify you as the owner of that pay bill or short code. So we'll go to the payment disbursement, and then we'll add a new entry. So what we are doing is the payment type. This will be an M-Pesa disbursement, and then here we'll just pick the mode of payment. So the account that is attached to our disbursement, that is M-Pesa settings disbursement. The party type can either be employee or supplier for now. And against employee, you can pay against the advance or the salary slips or any other document that I listed earlier. The paid amount is maybe the amount you have in your account currently, so you don't want to exceed that. And then you'll just get the references. So you might choose you want to pay a specific party, or you just want to fetch entries from a specific date. So once you get outstanding references, so it will automatically populate the reference, the mobile number if you have it in the system, and it will allocate the paid amount you had here against the entries you have. So you just save and submit this, and once that is done, the status will change to initiated. If the payment goes through, an M-Pesa B2C request will be, this just holds the credentials from Daraja, but our accounting entry, which is the payment entry, will be created against the specific payment or document. So in this case, it was an employee advance. So the advance amount was 100,000, and we paid 50. So this is a, what can I say, a simple scenario of B2C. So moving money from your account into now the customer's account. So if I go back and check the payment status, then my B2C disbursement will be marked as paid, but this will happen automatically in the background. If you just want to check the status, you can do that, but it will happen automatically, and then the transaction ID from Safaricom will be populated, that is from M-Pesa, will be populated here for record purposes, plus the date the transaction happened. That is basically B2C in short. And for the final tool that we have, or the final integration we've made, that will be the transaction status. So in this case, the customer has made a payment, but it hasn't reflected in your system. So you want to check, or you want to confirm that the payment has been made. So yeah, this is the C2B payment register. So what we do, let's say, for example, I'll just take this transaction. I'll copy the transaction ID, then I'll delete this payment. So this payment is not reflecting in my system. So we have a specific dispute. So I can come, check the transaction status, choose the settings or the pay bill which the customer paid against, enter the transaction ID and submit. So once that has been successful, I'll receive a callback from Daraja, and it will have the same transaction ID and the same details as before. So these can help you figure out or confirm if the payment has been made or not against your account. So yeah, that is it for Frappe M-Pesa or Frappe M-Pesa payments. It's a tool to integrate M-Pesa payments with ERPNext. This screen is just a sample of the issues I've seen, or the common issues I've seen when people are doing integration. So these are some of the problems on the left, maybe invalid access token. What you can do is go back on the Daraja portal and confirm that your credentials match. If you're not receiving any callbacks, you can ensure that you've done the setup I showed before, that is register your callbacks URLs, and ensure that the site is under HTTPS, or ensure that the URLs are not registered against another site. For B2C failures, mostly just check the initiator credentials. These ones you can get from the M-Pesa org portal. And for reconciliation mismatches, this is the automated one. If you want to use the automated reconciliations, but you're running into issues, just verify that the bill ref number or the account number is the same as the invoice number and the customer name and things like that. So I'll open the session for Q&A. In case anybody has questions, you can just unmute and ask, or type it in the chat. Yes, Stanley, just go ahead.
Yes, my question was on the Daraja API integration. So
Yes.
once you have this, say, because I can see Navari has a setup for M-Pesa and for the ERPNext setup. So once you have it, do you need to like set up another API connection, or you just use the integration that already is working for Navari? So probably your keys is what you enter.
Okay, so what you'll have to enter is just your credentials, the consumer key secret that you've gotten from Daraja.
Okay. So
Yeah, that is it.
So there's no technical setup you are going to do because what Navari has is already the interface works with what Navari has.
So what you do on the M-Pesa settings document that I've shown, you'll just plug in your credentials and save. Once you've saved, the next setup you might have to do is for C2B callbacks.
Okay.
It is whereby you register the URLs. But other than that, everything else is set up.
So for B2C callbacks, you'll have to do a bit of registering your URLs. So there's a bit of technicalities, but the rest is just your credentials and your keys.
And that is it, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, if there are no more questions, then thank you for engaging with me. You can explore our GitHub repository. We have more on the technical information about the application there. The documentation is also available, and also join the community and support us too. Thank you. I'll hand it back to Priska. Take over the meeting.